You want the mic? Are you good there?
Hi everyone. So this talk is all about the brutal truth about being pitched to, and I'm coming at you as a brand rather than as an agency, right? So where are my notes? Sorry. You guys can argue with everything I'm going to say today, but come up to me this evening, we can have a chat through it. But over the last 2 days, I've listened to you guys talk about what it's like to run an agency, and I've learned a lot more than I knew before about what it's like to run an agency, right? But the brands that you guys are working with don't know what it is like to be an agency, and they are constantly being pitched to by tech providers, by agencies, everyone else. So I wanted to ignore what I heard and kind of talk through what it's like as a brand. So who am I and why am I on the stage? So I'm Martin Harvey. I'm head of e-commerce for a business called The Bottle Club. I'm an ex-designer. That's how I got into e-commerce in the first place. I'm a Klaviyo champion with Rachel. I'm a Shopify app founder. And I run a multi-brand alcohol, e-commerce and FMCG retailer. So I am used to working with super low margin, high number of products. And I've worked with and been pitched to by SEO agencies, paid agencies, affiliate agencies, PR agencies, e-com consultants, CRM agencies, and a shitload of tech partners. So where things kind of fallen down is I've had people that have pitched to the wrong business. They've gone onto my LinkedIn, they've seen my Shopify app business, and they've gone, we can help monitor apps with scaling on Shopify. We can, sorry, I've got my notes. We can grow your business like we do with all of our other brands. And I was like, that's completely the wrong business. I've had mail merge errors where they've come to me and said, we can help millennium-group.co.uk scale on Shopify, and they have never done any research to what we actually sell, right? So my advice and the things that have always worked really well for me is someone that's kind of built a relationship first, kind of come to me, understood the business before they really got into what we're doing, and that's what really that's what's brought the insight. So we've also had scenarios which I'm going to go into in a minute, which is about pricing and tiny outputs. And we've also had experiences where they've come to us where they've offered us an audit and we've been talking for ages, and then we go on to the actual call and it's actually a pitch. And then I actually think there's a real strength in agencies that know that they're not the right fit, which we'll go into as well. So red flags in pitches, an instant swipe left from experience. It's just not understanding the business model, not actually sitting down, understanding how these businesses are operating, what they actually need to be successful. So, selling solutions before they actually know what the problem is. You're not actually sitting down, talking to us, working out what we're trying to do. I was talking to on one of the roundtables earlier about some of the reasons that we come to agencies is because we have a problem and we need to work out how to solve it. We're coming to you as you guys are the experts. And half the time it's like, we can do this for you, we can do that for you, and you've never actually looked to see what is our actual issue. Another thing that we see all the time is generic playbooks, and like Rachel's talked about quite a lot today about niches, about you guys need to kind of work out what you're very good at. And we've worked with agencies where they're incredibly good at fashion, right? That's their bread and butter, that's their ICP. And they come to us trying to do the same playbook, we've been on the same PPC agency, doing the same model, but actually it never converts because it does not operate how we operate, and it's just such a common error. And the big one, which we'll come on to, which is one of the biggest things, and as I spoke to a lot of brands before I came on the stage, before I wrote the presentation, to work out what some of their gripes were as well. And it's always about the actual cost to value ratio, and I'll go into a bit more detail, but not understanding businesses' margins. One huge frustration for brands is giving us BS metrics, things that you guys care about that we do not care about, right? So one of the ones that drives me insane is impressions. No one knows what that means, right? It's in every fucking deck that you see, but it doesn't mean anything, right? We had a PR agency, it's like, you've got 3 million sessions this month. And I was like, my sales haven't changed. And when we turned off the agency and we started working with them, we didn't see a drop at all. Those impressions are not conversions and they're not revenue. I've had agencies also pitch to me when I already work with you, and tech partners be like, have you heard of us? I'm like, I've been with you for 2 years. How do you not know that? And it's incredibly frustrating, which is why this guy is like, that is how I feel in half the pitches that I get. And one thing we saw all the time, especially in paid agencies, was, your last agency strategy sucked. Like, we can come in and do this. We'll do an audit. We're so much better than the last guy. And they come back and they do exactly the same thing we were doing before. And it is incredibly frustrating because we know why we did that. We're not hands off completely, right? We're working with these guys and we're like, well, this is why we've done this strategy. This is why we've come up with it. And you're like, you guys come in, you rubbish it doesn't work. And it actually was the most efficient way of doing it, and we could have stayed with the agency we were at. And it's a complete frustration. So what do brands actually expect from agencies? And for me, as you can see from the pictures on the left, it's a relationship, right? There's an African proverb, as Rachel had as well, which is, a fool speaks when a wise man listens, all right? You guys are experts, right? So you need to actually act like the experts. You need to start listening to what our problems are and finding solutions for them rather than telling us what the solutions are, as I mentioned earlier. We hired you because you're an expert, but wisdom is applying what you know, not talking about it. Ask commercial questions way before you open the deck. You don't want to go in with the prettiest deck in the world and then hear absolutely nothing. And one of the biggest ones that I got from all the brands that I spoke to, this is constant frustration, is that your sales team is amazing and your delivery team is really poor, right? Is that you sell the best ideas. I remember when I signed up to SMS years ago with another tech partner, and the plan that they came up with was brilliant. I was like, I cannot wait to be on conversational SMS. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Get live. They had no idea of that conversation. They didn't know what it could do. They didn't know how to use it. And it's constantly the fact that I bring your PMs into those trade calls, bring them in. Like, I appreciate you guys know when to actually, how to manage your agencies, but the people that are going to be actually working with that brand in the future need to know what they were pitched to and what they think they're getting when they join. And the best agencies feel like they're a member of payroll. I was speaking to somebody yesterday, and one of the notes that they said was, when people message us out of hours, we don't have to bill for it. And I was like, of course not. You're not billing, as a brand, we're bringing you guys in to be our team. You're a hire to us. You're not just like a tech cost. You're a member of that team, and that's what it should feel like. It should be on the payroll. And if I've got to feel like I'm doing a disservice or putting you out by messaging you about the thing that we're paying you to do, that's where that relationship starts to break down. We start to really go into numbers, finding holes in what it's like working with you. And I think that's a real pain point for brands, is that you don't feel, for agencies, is that you don't feel like we're connected to you. We don't feel like you're actually part of the team. And we want you guys to treat the brand like it's your own, like we're coming up with ideas and trying to find solutions to stuff. That's why we've come to you. But actually, you've got a wealth of experience, way more than we have. That's why we're hiring you. So we need you to come to us going, well, have you thought about this? And even kind of pitching some other agencies and actually really being a member of the team. For the last 6 years of me running this business, profit has been my biggest thing. Efficiency is my whole spiel. But that's because I run a business that has no margin in it. I'm operating on 20% at the best of times. Product profit margin is about 20%. So I need to make back my investment in 5% of my revenue. If you're not knowing that as an agency, how can you actually give value? So revenue doesn't mean profit, right? Once you've taken the VAT off, once you've got down to the actual cost of goods, taken off the actual sale, there's a lot less in it. And I've spoken to a few of you guys over the last 2 days, and you've talked about we want to do X amount more of the ROI. That's how you're measuring ROI. But that isn't ROI specifically to the brand, that's ROI to the agency. So for us, say we're turning over 500K a month, right? If you come to me and say, it's 10K a month, you've got to bring me back £200,000 additional revenue just for me to break even. That's almost another 50% on top of what I was already doing. And whenever I go, are you going to be able to do that? You go, no, probably not. I've had so many people go, yeah, you'll break even in about, 3 years. It's like, why? I'm not here to break even. I'm here to actually grow as a business. And actually, you're just giving me more cost and not giving me any actual value. To you, it's value. You see growth. We see cost. Right? If you don't know our margins, you shouldn't be asking for our money. And I think that should be one of the first points that's in any deck, is actually understanding. And at the end, I'll go through the 2 points. But I think over the last 2 days, I've realized that there are 2 questions I think all agencies should ask before they do any pitching. And the first is, are you VC backed or are you founder led? because they're two completely separate models, right? If you're a VC-led business, you're about growth. You're about how wide is the reach, how many people do they know about us. But when you are founder-led, when that money is yours, you're responsible for that money. You're responsible for those costs that you bring in. And if you don't know that, then how can you talk to me about spending more of it? So, and if you do have that conversation as your first question, the second question should be, okay, what is your margin? And I appreciate that some brands aren't going to want to share straight up what that margin is, but understanding what the actual business model is and the margin they're working to will give you a better insight about how valuable you could be to that business or not. So as I said, 10K a month is 200K in revenue. Again, metrics that you don't care about, giving us stuff that we don't need to hear because you think it's really important to us, but it's not. It's not actually bringing us value. It's not stuff that we're really going to be comparing to when it comes to the actual bottom line. VC-backed versus growth. And founder-led business. So yeah, VC-backed businesses care about growth, and founder-led businesses care about profit. And also, ROI as an agency to a brand is not a bonus, it's a brief, right? You need to be bringing back actual revenue, actual profit back into us as a business. And if you're not bringing that in, it's not really, it's not worth our time. And what I found really interesting over the last 2 days is in Tiara's talk yesterday, also James when he was talking to you guys about Triple Whale is you all know your margins, you all know about your costs, you all understand how efficiently you run your businesses, but you're not looking at the brands that you're working with about how efficient they are. So if you can do that calculation for yourself, you should do it for the brands that you're working with. Power in saying no, as Rachel said about the niches. There is a power in saying no and saying that you are not the right fit. Some of the agencies that I've never had the chance to work with, I've become the biggest advocates for, because I think if you know your ICP well enough, right, and you say, this is what we're really strong at, brands talk to each other. So when I speak to a brand that they need someone to do a certain job or they need an agency, I'm going to be shouting your name more than anything else because I know that you're good at it. So yeah, we're not the right fit is a really strong comment. That's how you build advocacy, even if you don't build client base. Understand your ICP and your USP. Don't go for the same playbook. But make sure if you do have a playbook that you're using with the right brands, if you're very good at fashion, stick with fashion, don't try and get into lifestyle. And just because it could work doesn't mean it will. And wisdom, again, is knowing when to act and also when to leave it alone. Just making sure I've covered everything that I wanted to say. So brands are coming to you because they have a problem. So we actually need a solution, not a pitch. Loads of the brands that I spoke to said, that the prettiest decks, they've got a really good branding under their agency, but they're actually bringing me no value. And they don't want to be pitched to, they want to have a solution to the problem they've come for. Let me come back to you on that. It's one of the most frustrating comments, but it also means that you didn't come prepared. You didn't understand the business when we spoke to you. You came with a rehearsed pitch that we've all heard before, but you didn't tailor it to our business. And hence the packaging, great pitch, rubbish delivery when you actually get into actually working with you guys. And you spoke to the great sales team, and then the performance and the project manager is not doing the work that it needed to be done. Be useful, don't be persuasive. And one-size-fits-all decks just screams that you don't actually know to know us. But my takeaway points is that I really think asking those two questions is incredibly important, and saying that, how do we help you? How does your business operate? What can we do to really nurture you? Are you VC-backed? Are you founder-led? What are your margins? Are the two biggest bugbears. But if you have any other questions, meet me at the bar. My order is a whiskey Coke, and please don't pitch to me.